host with White Labs, a full-service marketing agency. Today's guest is Carlton. Carlton, feel free to introduce yourself and let our viewers know about your background.
Hi, Stephen. Thank you very much. Carlton Marcyan, and I'm an attorney and CPA. I've been practicing law for, oh my God, it's about 42 years at this point. And hard to believe, but it goes by, the first 30 years go by very slowly, and the last 10 have been goes by like lightning. But primarily I've been practicing law in the area of family law, namely divorce law. And I began in 83 with my former firm and was there for about 40 years. And then decided to take on a bit different pace and a different focus on my practice. And with a firm in the Chicago area called Jackson, Buckley, and Fannin Steel. And we do primarily family law. And I'm still litigating to some extent, and I've been establishing a mediation practice over the past 5 or 6 years, and handle both sides of divorce cases, whether they be husband or wife. And it's never a dull moment. Let's put it that way. It's always different and always challenging, and you never know what tricks or the other side is trying to pull over you. So it's a big puzzle that you're constantly trying to figure out.
I can imagine. What inspired you to become an attorney and also a CPA?
Well, when I was in college, I went to a small school in Michigan called Kalamazoo College. And my major then was health science, pre-med. And after a couple of years, I just realized I really wasn't enthused about the subject. So I decided to change my majors. And I had to switch schools because I switched into accounting. The advice of a good friend of mine said, accounting, you might like that. It's a good basic bit of skill set they have, and you can use it in a lot of different ways. So I started taking classes at DePaul University in Chicago. Used to be a basketball powerhouse back in the day, back in the late 70s. But they had still do a very excellent accounting program. And graduated from there in 1976, and then actually went to work for a international accounting firm. Back then it was called Coopers & Lybrand. Now it's Price Waterhouse Coopers. They merged together some years ago. And did that, but I knew I wanted to practice law. So after Coopers & Lybrand, after a little bit more than a year, started law school in the Chicago area. School is now known as University of Illinois Chicago School of Law. Then after law school, went back to Coopers & Lybrand and did tax law for another year and a half, and decided I really wanted to litigate. And at that time, and like anything with opportunities, you're sometimes channeled into particular areas of what's available, not necessarily what you want to go into. But I'd never taken any domestic relation classes in law school, but an opportunity came up with this firm that was relatively new, but really on the cutting edge with some great partners, a fellow named Joe Ducanto, Don Schiller, Charlie Fleck. And it was a great place to learn, and spent the bulk of my career over there. So how did I decide to go into it? I just liked the idea of practicing law and representing people. I had some uncles and other close friends that were attorneys, and thought the work would be intriguing. Like I said before, it's just trying to figure out answers to puzzles, and I enjoy trying to figure those things out and taking a look at complex and trying to make it simple so people can understand it and work through it. And, the rest is history. So 43 years or 44 years later, still doing it. And the nice thing about practicing law is that it's something that you can do ongoingly. So, if most jobs in corporate America, you get to a certain age and, when they're done with you, they're done. You got to go. You're retired, and you're left kind of high and dry. And as long as you enjoy your work and like practicing, the law is a great place to go to, because they keep on doing it until, physically or mentally you're incapable of it. Nobody's going to tell you to stop doing it if you're capable of practicing. Always hang out a shingle too if you want to. And you meet a lot of interesting people, not only the clients, but other lawyers and judges. And it's a challenging environment, but never boring.
100%. Who is your ideal client or target audience that you're looking for today?
Well, that kind of changes during your career in terms of the optimal target audience, so to speak. I think because of the work I do in the financial background, typically I am involved with those that are entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs, and C-level executives and other professional athletes I've represented as well, where, the holdings and payments and payouts are a little more complicated, retirement planning and retirement plans to figure out, stock options, RSUs, all of those things. So the typical client is either the client who's involved in those types of levels of occupations or their spouses, because then it's the challenge is when you're representing the spouse is to figure all of that out. When you're representing the employee, so to speak, then you can get the answers a little more readily. But that's the target audience, and it's again, it ties in with my skill set with the accounting. And while I was in law school, I also worked for the IRS for a year doing research for them. So with a combination of the tax experience and the accounting, it has come to prove very, very helpful and beneficial in representing clients in high-stake financial divorce cases.
Gotcha. You've kind of touched on this briefly, but what makes you different than your competitors?
Well, I think the heavy-duty financial background makes me unique. I'm kind of a fan of staying educated, and as a hobby, acquired an MBA from one of our schools, Lake Forest Graduate School of Management in the area, and then a few years ago was awarded another master's degree in conflict resolution, because that's basically what I do on a daily basis is conflict resolution. Mm-hmm. This allowed me to kind of drill down into the psychology of it. So those types of bits of background are things that keep me unique from the others. Probably you never know. I mean, people look at your resume, and because you've got a certain academic background or you've got a degree in a particular area that may be appealing to them. In addition to being a CPA and certified in Illinois, I'm also a certified financial planner. And although I don't strictly do that, as part of my day-to-day job, having that ability, having those skills helps me with analysis. And then with clients that want to know and have direction about what do they do after the divorce, those skills are appealing to them as well, because I can set them up in a pathway to where they need to go after the case is over with.
Awesome. So a lot of our listeners are aspiring attorneys and entrepreneurs. What are some challenges that you faced throughout your career, and how were you able to overcome them?
Well, the field of divorce is very, very challenging. You're not only dealing with the technical issues in the state laws, because every state has got its own divorce law, so you have to become an expert in those. But you have to be knowledgeable about the financial issues, and there's always something new going on tax-wise, or some different type of compensation plan that people are being provided with. But the hardest part is that these cases are so personality-driven. So you're spending a lot of time getting to know your client, getting to understand the other side of the case, the other party, and dealing with lawyers that aren't necessarily easy to deal with. And then coupling all of that together with the fact that if you've got a case that's in court, you're also dealing with a judge. And so it's a lot of personalities, and you've got to be able to pick up on how to deal with people and try not to be, as a lawyer, sometimes, you're by definition, you can be offensive. It just goes with the territory, but you need to know when to turn it on and turn it off. And many times you can attain a resolution in a case by working in a cooperative manner or a collaborative manner rather than in a combative manner in the courthouse. It's you can get to a great result by lawyers opposing each other that are working together for the common good of both their clients, realizing that there's if you do things in a certain way, there are tax benefits available to them, or the splitting of retirements that can be done in an educated and informative way that help both sides. So it's really, a law professor once described the practice of law, specifically family law. It's a three-dimensional chess game, and it's happening at all levels, both in terms of personality, substantive law. If you go to court, you've got to know the rules of evidence. You have to know how to try a case, how to make objections. So it takes a long time to become adept at this. And not only learning the law of divorce, learning related laws that go along with like corporate law, tax law, real estate law, learning learning the nuances of the rules of evidence, which are part of the law, learning how to try a case, how to deal with people, how to argue. That's going to take you at least a dozen to 12 years to get a point where you are getting pretty good at it. Mm-hmm. And it's a constant learning experience. And it's in keeping up to date because the laws change constantly. The local state laws, as they apply to divorce, are constantly being modified and amended. So you have to keep up to date on all of that as well. And then the ultimate issue is, can you get clients? Because you can be the world's best lawyer, but unless you are able to gather clients and a following, you're just going to be an employee for somebody else at their whim. So most lawyers want to be able to establish their own, call it, book of business, where they've got referral sources and they can rely upon cases coming in, either from pleased clients from prior cases or from other referral sources, such as other lawyers, accountants, mental health professionals, you name it. And it's a 24/7 endeavor. When you make a decision to be a lawyer, especially in the family law area, this is not something that you're a dilettante at. It's not something you can kind of just go in and go out of. It becomes part of your life. And, things happen. Clients call you at the middle of the night. Problems occur. People get arrested. You got to help them out. Weekends that you plan on maybe being with your family, sometimes it doesn't happen because you've got to spend Saturday and Sunday getting ready for a trial or working on a project that requires your total attention. You can't be, interrupted, which you are on Monday through Friday with telephone calls and hundreds of emails you get. So it's challenging. So it's not for everybody, but people that are high energy, that are A personality types, that enjoy to learn, that enjoy challenges, and that can learn how to smartly fight with the other side, not physically, but mentally in terms of their arguments. Although I've had some cases where some things get a little hairy over the years, but it's a real challenge to learn all of this. And when I looking back over my 40 years plus experience, there's a lot of stuff that went on. I started putting together and writing a book about my experiences. It's going to have to be done more of a change the names to protect the guilty type of thing. When I started doing that, and that was a year-long project, it's amazing, how much you become exposed to. But every experience you learn from, and you learn how to become a better lawyer as a result. And it's something that I enjoy. And at this stage of my career, I mentioned mediation before. That gives me the ability not to represent either side. I become a neutral, a person in the middle that helps them and their lawyers get to a resolution. And at this stage in my career, I'm also finding that to be really, really, fun is a weird word to use in the circumstance, but it's very fulfilling to be able to get people through this process and help their lawyers get through the process, avoiding court, because court is very costly, very time consuming. So I like it. It's the challenge. So if there's people out in the audience that want to become lawyers, specifically family law lawyers, that's the world. That's the expectation. So you got to put on your seatbelt and commit. It's not a specialized area for the weak of heart.
100%. Well, speaking of your clients, what has been the most successful way for you to get more clients and market yourself?
Well, number one is to do the best job possible for your clients and to be involved with them, understand them, take the time to listen to them. They will be your best referral sources. Then the other way to get clients is to establish relationships with other lawyers that have other areas of expertise. And you've got an instant network, because when you go to law school, you're there with, 100 or 200 other students in your class. And you want to become friendly with as many of these people as possible, because they're going to be referral sources for you down the line. And you can refer matters to them. So it's sort of a cross-pollination. And then for lawyers especially, join bar associations, your local bar association, your state bar association, your city bar association, or the national bar association. You're going to be able to make friends, and you're going to get referrals from those people as well. So you want to be very, very active and do a good job in their committees and subcommittees. But when you do commit to be involved in these things, make sure you actually do it, because you can develop a bad reputation if you say, okay, I'm going to help out, and you don't do it. People will get turned off, and they're not going to look to you as a reliable source. So those types of involvements. And then in the community, very important to be involved in community matters, whether it's your Lions Club or local Rotary, whatever the case may be. Be involved in your community, because it gets your name out. Also, it doesn't hurt to become somewhat of an expert at marketing. Websites have been, everybody's got to have a website nowadays. And you can be a solo practitioner and look like you're working for the biggest law firm in the world, depending on how the website is set up. So you've got a mechanism to be able to toot your own horn. So it's be involved. So that goes part of this 24/7 activity. So not only are you going to court and representing clients, but you are also actively involved in many, many things in the community that are legal community or just the community at large.
Definitely. Well, Carlton, what is your future plan for yourself?
Well, future plan is to move my practice to be primarily as a mediator. And I'm at that stage of my career, as I said before, where I really enjoy helping people get through tough times. And as a mediator, I get to see both sides of the case. I get to find out in a confidential manner what the goals and needs and wants are of each of the clients, and then be able to figure out where these parties are in agreement, because many times there's things they agree upon, they just don't communicate to each other properly. And I'm that conduit to be able to let them communicate with each other in a protected environment that's confidential in nature when you're doing mediation. Another methodology is called collaborative law. You can do that as well. And that's where the lawyers agree in writing. We're not going to go to court. We're going to do it in a series of conferences or meetings. We'll bring in other experts. If it's a child custody issue, bring in a child expert. If it's a financial issue, valuation issue, we're bringing people in. But you agree not to go to court. And it actually is very, very powerful, because if the parties say, you know what, we're tired of this, we're going to go to court, then all the lawyers are fired. And it's a great disincentive for people to want to just say, hey, I'm just going to go to court and fight about it. Because most people aren't going to want to pay a new set of lawyers to start all over. So collaborative practice is also a very, very good methodology. But for me, I think moving it towards mediation as a mediator is going to be where I'm going. Developing that, and the fact of having some specialized knowledge with a master's in conflict resolution, it gives me pretty good insight and great tools to work with to help people. You're knocked out, Stephen. I can't hear you.
I appreciate you coming on the WYTPod and sharing your story. Thank you so much, and thank you for your time.
Sure. No, it's a pleasure to meet you, and it was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Perfect. Definitely. Thank you.